The genre of God games has always been something of a rarity. Even throughout the most creative and productive years of video games, that being the 90s, the God genre appeared only once in a blue moon. The only person brave enough to delve into the genre was Peter Molyneux, with titles like Populous, Dungeon Keeper and Black and White. Let's not get into the disaster that is Goddess, however. While there have been other attempts, especially with the indie boom the industry has seen over the past 6 or 7 years, few have truly made an enjoyable and intriguing experience. The game we're looking at today, however, certainly has plenty of intrigue, even in its early stage of development. Crest is an indie God game currently being developed and published by Eat Create Sleep. The developers of Crest really understand what it is that makes a God game as intriguing and as fun as it is, while also changing the formula of what is commonly known for the genre. It may be early days for the game, but despite that being the case, it is really coming along nicely and looking to becoming a unique and most promising experience. You take on the role of a god who must lead their followers towards survival. To do this, you must make commandments for them to use as guidance in order to triumph. This is done by first choosing the location of those the commandment is for, followed by what you want them to do and what you want them to do that task on. For example, choosing savanna, produce and food will result in any followers located in the savanna areas to begin producing food. Or for another example, jungle produce trade will result in all followers located in jungles to begin establishing trade with other towns. Each of the options available are called words, and there are only so many available at the beginning of the game. But as you progress and your followers evolve, more words will become available to you, allowing you to make even more commandments. At first there will only be one town of followers you will have to guide, but as time passes, new towns will begin to rise and you will need to guide each and every one of them. Each town has its own needs and cravings that must be met for them to be happy and to survive. If you fail to keep track of their needs, sooner or later the town will perish. What makes this a challenge is that the followers have a mind of their own, meaning they can choose to ignore you if they wish to do so. Your followers can also misunderstand your command as something else which you will need to decide if you approve or disapprove. To up the ante on the challenge and to add a strategic element to the game, you have a limited amount of influence at your disposal at any one time. Influence is needed to make commandments and to approve or disapprove any misunderstood commandments. It costs 3 influence to make a commandment and 2 to sort out any misunderstandings with your followers and your guidance. You can only have a total of 10 influence at any one time, and you only gain 5 influence every 4 in-game months, which can be lowered depending on how many of your followers actually believe in you. If you run out of influence, your followers can only obey the commandments currently active. That is, if they will listen. You need to make the most of every commandment you issue, as it could come back to bite you later, when they desperately need you. If left without guidance, the followers could very well leave the entire world a wasteland. That is, if they don't kill each other first. Along with their needs, each town also has doctrines, which shows their beliefs. Each doctrine has its own likes, dislikes and needs which must be met. Doctrines affect your commandments greatly, as it is them which determine whether a city and its followers will obey a commandment or not. For example, a city that follows abundance will likely not obey a commandment that asks to produce offspring. It makes every one of your commandments ever more valuable, as different towns and doctrines need different commandments to survive. Overall, it's a fun system that allows you to give all kinds of different commandments, from simple ones to downright evil ones if you wish to do so, such as causing war or making followers turn on each other. It really makes you feel like a god, and it is done in such a way that it isn't simple clicking and telling them what to do. You really need to think about what to do and who to give the commandments to. With that said, there are a few improvements that could still be made with it when it comes to the tutorial and giving the player at least the basics they need to understand the fundamentals of the game. Right now the tutorial does a great job of explaining how commandments and followers work, but I feel it could do with a bit more detail on how doctrines work, along with the information on how to guide cities into reaching their needs. While some of the needs are self-explanatory, like abundance, substance and offspring, others such as safety and esteem could do with a bit more clarification as to how they work. As for the doctrines, when you look at the city's statistics, you will notice that each of the available doctrines go up and down like absolute yo-yos, and it is here that it's hard to understand what exactly is causing this. Not to mention what affects the city following a particular doctrine, and how you could intervene to help a city choose a doctrine. Doing this would add a whole new level of strategy to the game, as difference in doctrines can often lead to war among cities. I last played Crest back in December last year, and I must say it has come an awful long way since then, and even more than when I first played it, even further back than that. The gameplay is really starting to come into shape, and most of all it is fun to play. Crest is starting to feel like a proper game as opposed to the very obvious early builds I previously played. The visuals of Crest certainly take a more simplistic approach with low polygon assets. While just saying that would get the impression that the game is ugly, it actually isn't, and works really well. It adds a level of charm to the game, and it gives a unique art design that other games wouldn't dare tackle in a million years. It is actually quite refreshing. Each and every character type looks like it should be. For example, a lion looks like a lion, despite its simple design. The animations for the characters are also really well done, making them fluent and feel like living, breathing beings, both the humans and animals alike. Along with that, there are now more details than ever before, where followers with babies now show a crib with a baby in it, new buildings are constructed, and in the latest unstable build released just last week, followers can now build monuments to express their faith in you. The unstable build being available to anyone who wants to try it out. I will place a link in the description below to the instructions on how to access it. When I first played Crest way back last year, I wasn't overly impressed with it. This was mostly due to the lack of an informative tutorial and gameplay being at its most basic level. Since, however, the game has continued to grow on me more and more with each big update, Eat, Create, Sleep release. Originally it was difficult to envision the direction that the developers were heading with the game and what it was they were exactly aiming for with it. But in the year or so since then, I'm beginning to see exactly what they're attempting to do with Crest, and that is to create an indirect God game where you will need to attempt to bypass the followers' programming using the commandments. It results in it being like nothing you've played before, and they certainly have succeeded in doing that. There is no mistaking that Crest is still in its very early days and that it still has a long way to go, but it really is beginning to turn into something special, unique and utterly charming. Crest is a perfect example of why I keep returning to early access games as they release updates, as with a few updates a game can turn from something that doesn't have any particular interest to something quite enjoyable. The tutorial still needs a bit of work to get across the basic fundamentals in their entirety, but with that said, I also like the no holding hands approach the developer has taken with Crest. Right now there's no better time to get stuck into the game. The core gameplay is in full swing, and you really get to see what the developer is aiming for with it. And if it is a case you tried it in the past and didn't enjoy it, I highly recommend giving it another go, as you'll be surprised just how far this game has come. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, have fun.